over the years. They've been in receivership so many times. Etihad came in, bought some stake in it, and you find that now that airline is beginning to stabilize, even though they still have some financial troubles. Delta Airlines and Continental Airlines were part of it. They went into receivership and got restructured and are back. So I think that that alone is a significant national intervention which has saved jobs, saved the economy, reduced the disruption effect in this country. And so we need to actually accept that as a major contribution of AMCON.
What's the good news and the bad news?
Well, the truth is that the good news is that AMCON has provided stabilization, that the economic recovery, slow, painful, and tepid, is going to start, and then AMCON can sell into this market as things improve. I suspect that the levy on the banking system will have to be reviewed, so that either you extend the sunset clause or you increase the levy so that AMCON can actually exit, and the taxpayers will have zero burden, if not a profit, just like they have had in the United States and the United Kingdom. I think that it's possible because of some weaknesses we see in the financial system, that there could be a call for AMCON 2.0. In other words, if there's a need to intervene to support some of the banks because of their exposure to oil and gas and exposure to energy, then there may be a need to start buying toxic assets again at a discount. If that happens, that will only help the banking system and help the economy. So for now, all well and good. Hopefully the recovery stays on course. I do not think that there will be urgency to review the levies yet. But if we have to stick by the sunset clause of 2023, then something has to happen to the levies. But I suspect that we could actually extend the sunset clause and allow AMCON to go into an AMCON 2.0, that is to buy some toxic assets again.
And that's speaking to the funding model?
Yes, I think right now AMCON management is on top of things. And just as the economy begins to recover from currency crisis, commodity crisis, economic crisis, and market crisis, everything begins to look better. So we may not get to that precipice as we originally envisaged.
In terms of recovery of assets and all that, and of course we've seen a few government agencies and the National Assembly intervene and say, look, if you are a government contractor and you're taking money, doing contract for government and you're not paying, and you're debtor to AMCON, perhaps you should be slapped more than a wrist on the hand.
Well, that is true. The reality is that some of these restructurings, that is, if somebody is insolvent and illiquid, if he gets a government contract, are you going to tell him, you can't get water out of stone, right? What you do is to restructure it in such a way that maybe 25% of all the revenues from that contract will be used to amortize AMCON's debt, and then the company stays alive, saves jobs, and does things. So the willingness to pay and the ability to pay are two different things. These guys will be willing but won't have the ability. But if you now create the ability by giving them a contract, government contract, which saves jobs and makes them able to amortize and service their debt, then you're doing two things. You're keeping the company alive, you are making the debt serviceable, and then you're keeping the jobs going.
You think there are more those who are, have ability to pay, but the willingness to pay?
In Nigeria, there's more of the unwillingness to pay and more than the inability to pay. But we're trying to convert the inability to ability and the unwillingness to compulsory willingness.
AMCON is speaking about, he's holding a lot of assets on his books, for example, real estate. And we'll get back to the vacancy real estate. Do you think AMCON can go to the markets, for example, and maybe float a real estate investment trust?
Yes. The real estate investment trust is actually a form of refinancing existing real estate. If the real estate market picks up, AMCON can participate in that, or AMCON can begin to sell strategically into that market as long as the carrying cost is lower than the cost of funding. Since AMCON is being funded at 6% per annum, I think they are in a good place, so they can actually wait, and then they can actually take advantage of this. But the way I see it is that as the market begins to appreciate, as the recovery kicks in, the necessity for an AMCON 2.0 is more important to us than what they do, what profit they make when they come out of this. They will always end up in a profit anyway, right? It's only a question of time.
Do you think there's still a bit more mess to clear up for
Absolutely.
AMCON
In
the economy?
You see, in a cyclical downturn that we had, the second one, because AMCON was set up to deal with the 2008-2009 crisis, was not set up to deal with the 2015-2016 crisis. This 2015-2016 crisis, together with the currency shakeout, will leave some casualties. We need to prepare for that toxicity. In other words, AMCON will have to buy, or if not AMCON, some other entity will have to go in there and buy some of these assets at a discount so that the banking system is free of the baggage and be able to
We'll see that in the electricity sector. The news is that at least they are wrapping up on one of the electricity assets they're holding and trying to shake it out and make it better. But still quite a lot in there looking at the banking sector and what their interventions NPL in the last a few years. Thank you very much, Mr. Rewane, for coming.
Thank you.
We appreciate your time.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much for kicking off the Business Week for us. Bismarck Rewane, the Chief Executive Officer at Financial Derivatives. Get into the NSC challenge and get Pai Gandhi here into the studios to talk us through what this challenge is all about. It may just be the final takeaway for today's program.